You're watching Mc&T Sports Report on CHCO-TV. And now, here's two guys who stay cool in the summer by swimming daily from St. Andrews to Lubec, Maine, with their passports, Evan and Joe.
I'm Joe Ticotsky down in New Haven, Connecticut.
And I'm Evan McFarlane up here in New Brunswick, Canada.
And you're watching episode 72 of Mc&T Sports Report on CHCO-TV. Now, Evan, you're Canadian, so therefore that makes you our resident hockey expert. Quick thoughts on the Edmonton Oilers run that came up just short of the Stanley Cup.
I want to rephrase what you just said. If I was a hockey expert, then I still wouldn't be waiting my entire life to see my team win a series in the playoffs.
Good point.
Yeah, I mean it's super exciting. Obviously, like we do want to see the cup back in Ontario, but I'm not buying it. I'm not getting sucked into this cheering for one team just because they're from a country. I'm a Leafs fan. I'll eat it. I don't care. It was a great game last night, and it was really exciting. But I'm not hopping on the bandwagon.
There you go. And the cup-winning Florida Panthers, I saw had two players from Connecticut. Backup goalie Spencer Knight is from Darien, and Mackie Samoskevich is from Newtown, and his twin sister played college hockey at Quinnipiac, just down the road from where I live.
Nice.
So a few local.
And the rest of the teams from Canada.
Or Finland.
Yeah.
On that one. But all right, we got a quick music spotlight here before the break. A guy from Halifax, Nova Scotia, named Tommy Green Jr., sort of an unknown guy. They list him as like lounge singer, cruise singer, and he has a song called Roses that's been on repeat on my Spotify playlist, even though Spotify went up $1. All right.
Yeah.
And if you're a sucker for horns in your songs, this tune is for you.
Nice.
So that's Tommy Green Jr. And after the break, we will talk to someone from New Brunswick who you just might see on your TVs later this month when you're watching the Summer Olympics from Paris. You're watching Mc&T Sports Report on CHCO-TV in St. Andrews. Welcome back to Mc&T Sports Report on CHCO-TV. Our first guest hails from Riverview, New Brunswick, just outside Moncton. And despite still being in college, she's already had quite a distinguished swimming career. She's a 7-time collegiate All-American at the University of Tennessee. And at last year's Pan American Games in Santiago, Chile, she won an amazing 5 relay medals, 2 golds, a silver, and 2 bronze medals. And in late July, she'll be swimming for Canada at the 2024 Paris Summer Olympics, becoming the first swimmer from New Brunswick to qualify for the Olympics in 24 years. So let's head down to Knoxville, Tennessee, and welcome in Brooklyn Douthwright. Brooklyn, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, thanks for offering your time to us.
All right, let's get rolling here. You started swimming competitively at the age of 9. Now, northern New Brunswick isn't really known as a swimming hotbed. What got you interested in swimming?
Yeah, so actually, when I was young, my grandfather owned a pool business. It's now my uncle's. But naturally, I kind of, had to have a pool in my backyard, and I just really loved being in the water, kind of felt super natural for me. And I actually started out as a synchronized swimmer, but a few years into that, I realized that I actually liked the warm up and doing the laps more than synchro. So that kind of allowed me to transition into swim team where I joined Kodiak Vikings at first, and now I'm with CNBO. So yeah, it's kind of where it started, and just kind of built from there.
Okay, now 3 years later, I read that at age 12, you became the youngest person ever to swim the Northumberland Strait, which covers almost 10 miles of open water between New Brunswick and Prince Edward Island. Was that on a dare, or did you lose a bet, or how did that come about?
Um, if I remember, I think I was just like watching the news or something. My parents had it on, and I saw that this 14-year-old had done it before me, and I was like, oh, I want to do that when I'm 13. And then a couple months later, I saw that they like opened the registration for it, and I was like, I don't have to wait another year. I can do it now. And so I just kind of started training some open water, doing some longer sets and stuff to get ready for that. I just thought it would be something cool to do, something challenging to kind of push myself, try something new. And I didn't love it. I don't do open water anymore, but it was such a cool experience for sure.
I mean, I
Evan,
go over there quite a bit, and what's it, 5250 now to go on the bridge? Maybe I'll start training
Yeah, it's
to swim
there's
over.
one way to get across. Yeah.
For sure.
all right,
But
Evan.
you currently go to the University of Tennessee, which is about 1,400 miles from where you are in New Brunswick. When did you realize you wanted to swim collegiately in the United States, and what exactly attracted you to the University of Tennessee?
Yeah, so that whole kind of process, figuring out where I was gonna swim in college it was kind of difficult. I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't have anybody to ask. Nobody in New Brunswick had really done that before. So I think it was like the day I finished grade 10, the universities were able to start reaching out. So I just got this flood of emails and I didn't really know what to do. I didn't know if I wanted to go to America to swim or if I wanted to stay in Canada. So that process it was long. It took me about a year and a half to end up making a decision, talking to places. But eventually, I found Tennessee. A coach had recommended it to me, and they reached out. So I was talking to them. I just fell in love with all of the athletes that they have here. I fit in so well with them. The coaches, I mean, the way that they think about swimming just really clicks with me, clicks with how I swim. So I think that's had a lot to do with the success that I've had since coming here. And beyond that, just, I mean, there's so many resources down here. Like we've got 350-meter pools within like 2 minutes of each other, whereas there's one 50-meter pool in all of New Brunswick. So the resources that we have here are just insane, and it's such a big family over here. That's really the word that I would use to describe it. So yeah, I think that's kind of what drew me to Tennessee and kind of kept me here.
Well, I think
Okay.
that's such an important point from your perspective too. Like, it almost frustrates me now how many like transfers there are within universities, and it almost probably comes down to people just not doing their homework at the start and just getting excited and taking the first offer. So, congrats on you for taking your time.
Yeah,
Now,
thank you.
Tennessee certainly got a good one as you've been a 7-time All-American, but the coup de grace, you've qualified for the July Summer Olympics in Paris, which is just an amazing achievement. When did you officially qualify, and what was that feeling like?
Yeah, so we had for Canada, you have to qualify at our trials. So that was, I think it was May 13th to 19th. And I ended up qualifying on the 17th, I believe, that Friday. Originally, I thought that my best chance was in the 200 free, and I ended up coming sixth in that, which technically they can bring six, but it was very iffy. So I wasn't really banking that I was going to make it in that. So I was like, okay, like the 100. I was like, this wasn't how I was expecting it to go, but this is what we have left. So I just kind of had to put everything into that. I really had to just make myself believe that it was possible. And then in the 100, I ended up coming third, and they take four for the relay. So I ended up qualifying, and that was probably when I touched the wall. And it took me a little while to kind of turn around and look at the results. That was one of the most stressful moments of my life, like trying to convince myself to turn around and look at the scores. But when I did, I mean, every emotion you can feel, like relief, happiness, gratitude, all of it. Yeah, I mean, it was crazy experience, and so happy to have done it with the girls that I did. I think that the relay is going to be really good. It's a lot of great girls. They're so nice, competitive, hardworking. So I'm just so happy to be a part of that group.
Awesome.
Evan.
Congrats on that. This is
Thank
kind
you.
of a two-part Olympic related question. The first one is just because we're working on Joe's wardrobe. So I just kind of want to know what the Canadian team outfits are going to look like for the opening ceremonies. And secondly, Have you set any goals for yourself during your event in the Olympics? We have a pretty good track record for Olympic athletes on our show, so we're expecting great things.
Yeah. Definitely excited about the outfitting. Lululemon is our sponsor, and I mean, I
There
was
you
at
go,
Pan
Joe.
America.
Those are perfect
Yeah,
for you, Joe. Perfect things.
Evan's always walking around in Lululemon
yeah,
tights, so get rid of that visual.
Pro athlete, baby.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, they had it at Pan Am's back in October, and I mean, they really like they take care of you. They give you a lot of stuff, so that's something I'm definitely really excited about. But more than that, the swimming part too, I'm excited about that. Um, Really, I think just putting my head down going into the games, doing everything that I can to have the absolute best performances for Team Canada. I'm going there to swim relay. I mean, even individual events, you're part of Team Canada, but for a relay, you aren't swimming for yourself. You're swimming for your team. You're swimming for your country. So I think it's something that I just feel so proud to be able to do. And for the next, I think I got 3.5 weeks until it starts. I think just really putting my head down, doing everything I can to be as fast as possible, give Canada the best results that I can.
Nice.
Nice. I read somewhere, I don't know if this is true, is the U.S. wearing like jeans for their opening ceremonies? We always do something pitiful. All right, lastly, before we let you go, I have to ask you one question. This was one that I didn't tell you in advance. As
Uh-oh.
a University of Tennessee student athlete, have you gotten tired of that damn Rocky Top song yet?
No, no, I haven't. But I will say this last week, I was doing weights, I was in our gym, and football was training outside. And it was some drill or something. They were practicing for having a big crowd. They played Rocky Top on repeat for the whole hour and a half that I was there. So that day, that day it was, the like third repeat. I was like, okay, it can't go on forever. It went on forever. That day I was a little sick of it. Usually I'm not though. I love it.
Oh man, I was we can have our viewers Google Rocky Top. It's an earworm. Once you hear it, you can't get rid of it in your mind. Well, Brooklyn Douthwright is a University of Tennessee swimmer from Riverview, New Brunswick, who will be part of Team Canada and their women's swimming team at the 2024 Summer Olympics in Paris, France. The opening ceremonies for the Olympics are on July 26th, with swimming events starting the next day. You can catch it all on CBC in Canada and on NBC in the US. Brooklyn, thanks so much for taking time out of your busy training schedule. It's amazing that less than a month out as we record this, you found time to join us. So best of luck in the Olympics and enjoy the entire experience there.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. I'm going to reach out to you about how I can strengthen my long distance swimming. I've really got to cut down on gas this year.
Evan and
Okay.
I will have a little in studio competition.
Joe,
All
you
right,
can barely
well,
swim across the bathtub, buddy.
well, after the break, we will head out to Nova Scotia to talk about an impressive summer music festival on Small Town Spotlight. You're watching Mc&T Sports Report on CHCO-TV. Welcome back to Mc&T Sports Report on CHCO-TV. For this episode of Small Town Spotlight, we head to Lunenburg, a port town on the south shore of Nova Scotia, located 1 hour from Halifax. Founded in 1753, it currently has a population of 2,263. Lunenburg is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, but back in the 20s and 30s, it was actually a rum running site to the U.S. during Prohibition. In every August, the town hosts the Lunenburg Folk Harbor Festival, run by a volunteer charitable organization with a mandate to present folk music and folklore on the south shore of Nova Scotia. And to that end, let's introduce you to Louis Robitaill, the president and program chair of the Lunenburg Folk Society. Louis, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
You've been involved with the Lunenburg Folk Society over 25 years. Now, you told me you're not a musician, So how and why did you get involved?
Well, just a general interest in music and also community. So, the Folk Society has been going for nearly 40 years, and it's a big part of the society here. And, I was an audience member for almost a decade before I started volunteering for the group.
Okay. Now let's focus for a second on the August Festival. When did it start and what's its average yearly attendance these days?
So the first festival was in 1986. It started, there was a number of people that got together. Elma Houston was one. Joel Plastic's father was one of them. They got together and they went on tour back in the mid 80s, including down into the States and also the UK. And they came back with the idea of, and the idea of Folk Harbor comes from the harbor of Lunenburg and drawing people from around the world, New England states and the UK, into the harbor to perform folk music. So that's when it first started. I would think that they started working on the idea a year before the first festival or more.
Okay. And average yearly attendance these days?
So right now, we would have our main tent holds 1,000, but our afternoon venues would hold anywhere from 300 to 600. And for the 4 days, we have about 7,500 to 8,500 audience members.
Pretty impressive for a town of only 2,200. That's good. Quick overview of some of the venues used for the festival, because you have some unique ones.
Yeah, so one venue, and I think you mentioned it earlier before we went on air, St. John's Anglican Church. St. John's Anglican Church in Lunenburg is the second oldest Anglican church in North America. It's a beautiful church, and it has a capacity about 600. It has great acoustics on its own, and we use that as a venue in the afternoon. We use another church, the United Church, Central United Church in town. It's a bigger church. Doesn't have the same quality of acoustics, but yeah, it's good. Then we also have the Lunenburg Opera House. We own and operate the Opera House in Lunenburg, and we use that. It's a 300-seat soft seater in the middle of town. It's a century old or more. And we have a couple of outdoor venues. So we typically have the Wharf Stage, which backs onto the Blue Nose. If you know anything about Lunenburg, the Blue Nose is the sailing ship that is on the Dime, the Canadian Dime. So that's one of our stages. And the other stage is typically in the park in the middle of town. So those are our main stages during the afternoon. In the evening, we all come together in the main tent. The main stage tent sits about 1,000. It's up on Blockhouse Hill. Blockhouse is a type of building that was used to fortify the port back in the day. And so there's a park there that we use, and we set up a huge tent in the center of town there.
All right. Oh, what are some of the bigger acts that have performed at the festival over the years?
So big acts, in the day we've had big maritime Atlantic Canadian acts like Ron Hines and Lenny Gallant, also the Rankin family, the Barrett McNeils, those types of things. In terms of some others, John Gorka, Dar Williams, Ruthie Foster would be some Americans that we've had up here. We've had people from all over Canada, all over North America, the UK, Australia. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I had mentioned to you off air, and this is the T-shirt. I actually went in 2017. Had never been to the area at all, and it was phenomenal. I saw in the church, and sort of the neat part was people I had never really heard of before that you became fans of. John Wirt Hannum, who's an amazing singer-songwriter. I saw him in the church. At night, I saw Lenny Gallant, and I saw the Reverend. What was his name again? Robert
Lee Jones.
Robert Lee Jones. He was amazing, and I was surprised at just how far people had come from, as you had mentioned, each year. And it's just the venues and it was great. It was great.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned to me, besides the festival in August, and we do want people to know this, the society presents music basically year round. So tell us a little about that.
Yep. So this spring, we actually opened our spring series with Alison Russell. So she was here for the Junos. So we lucked in order to, be able to present her just before she performed in Halifax for the Junos. But yeah, we have a spring series, typically 8, 9, 10 concerts in the spring. That's in we call it Weekends at the Opera House. That's in our building, the Opera House. Like I said, a 300 soft seater. During the summer, on Saturdays, we had a series called Saturdays in the Park. We just found out from the town a couple of weeks ago that we can't use the bandstand there. So we've moved down to the Fisheries Museum, and we're going to be on a stage just off the wharf next to the Fisheries Museum. So that's where we're going to be presenting this summer. So we have 10 shows every Saturday from the last weekend in June to the first weekend in September. Those are mostly more Nova Scotian acts because it's a free stage. So it's something that it's a community focused thing. And then again, in the fall, we have a fall series that, again, it's 8 or 9, 10 shows that we're planning right now. We have them about half booked, and we'll be presenting again in the Opera House during the fall.
Okay. And before we let you go, I always ask our guests on Small Town Spotlight to give me a favorite local restaurant. And you mentioned you've got 2.
Yeah, so, right down on the water, I would say that Salt Shaker Deli and Inn, it actually has 4 rooms on top of it, is one of our favorites. We attend there quite a bit. The Grand Banker overlooks the water as well. Both of them do. Is also one of our favorites to attend it in town.
Okay.
Both those owners are big sponsors of ours, so it's good to plug people that are willing to give you money. And certainly they appreciate the fact that we put on shows off season, right? Because you can tell the buzz in town when we're having a show in the Opera House. There's more attendance in town, buying dinner. Some people even rent a room during the weekends that we have concerts because they come in from all over New Brunswick and Cape Breton, etc.
All right. Well, when I was up there, I had, still to this day, the best scallops that I have ever had up there. They were amazing. I almost had to take a long nap before I got on and saw some of the shows there, and it was neat. A lot of free stuff there. Also, when I was up there, I saw the group The Once, who I then ended up seeing last year in Asbury Park, New Jersey, with the group Bahamas, and it's just neat. And I see you've got a nice little collection in the background there for the kids in the audience. Those are called CDs, and yeah, looks pretty impressive.
Yeah, you mentioned the Once. The Once have a special connection to here. The first time they were off Newfoundland, they performed at our festival. And they were so new to the business that they had no recorded music. And so they were on a stage, and on the wharf stage, actually, and somebody was asking them about buying merchandise from them, and they said they had nothing. And an audience member came up to them afterwards and said, "I would like to sponsor your first CD." And so somebody from the audience listening to them came up and gave them thousands of dollars to produce their first CD. So they have a special relationship with Folk Harbor, obviously.
That's amazing. Can you find that sponsor and have them check out our show? And all right. Well, he is Louis Robitaill, President and Program Chair of the Lunenburg Folk Society. This year's Lunenburg Folk Harbor Festival will be held August 8th through 11th, and you can find out more about it by going to folkharbor.com. And
I would remind people that harbor is spelled Hrbor.
I know, us Americans. I know. All right. Well, Louis, thanks so much for being on the show, and best of luck with this year's festival. And we are back. Two great guests on this episode. But Ev, how about that Brooklyn Douthwright? Just so poised and mature.
I was just going to say that she's so ahead of the curve for someone that young, like making such big decisions. I was really impressed with talking to her about how she went about everything. And I just do want to clarify that she is the one that you may see at the Olympics. I don't think there's an event for the 5-hour couch lay that I would probably get the gold in. Yeah, we're looking forward to cheering her on, and we wish her the best. She's going to do well, even outside of sports. I think she's got it together.
That is, she's got an impressive career ahead of her. All right, why don't you finish us up with a shout out?
For sure. A little bit late on this one, but just a shout out to the class of 2024 at SJDA. And for anyone who was at the graduation, there was an obscene amount of money and scholarships given away. And our school has always been really good for getting that money together and having really smart kids. But this year, wrap your head around this one. 24 graduates, just under $1 million in scholarships.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I'm not kidding. It's crazy. It's astronomical amounts of money. It's a very smart group. They've worked really hard, and I'm super, super proud of what they've done. So congrats to that whole class.
Okay, so maybe this will be the time to let everyone know that you and I dropped $200K towards that $1 million.
Yes.
Yeah.
I forgot to print the receipt. That's the biggest issue.
Well, that is it for episode 72 of Mc&T Sports Report. I'm Joe in New Haven.
I'm Evan here in St. Andrews.
Thanks to Patrick Watt and Florence Mitchell for producing and editing a show that's now the official community TV sports show of the 2024 Canadian Olympic women's swimming team.
Absolutely.
This is Mc&T Sports Report on CHCO in St. Andrews.